The Cleveland Browns really came out here and did Baker Mayfield extremely dirty. Let's get into it. What is going on, good people? DJ here, Flock Nation Speaks. This is an official episode. This is just me, just probably rambling on, ranting a little bit. It's crazy. I've talked more about the Browns, I think, than the Ravens on a Ravens podcast, ironically enough, right? For me, I'm frustrated a little bit by how the Browns fan base has done Baker Mayfield. Because I'll tell you this, the Browns do not even deserve Deshaun Watson for the way they treated Baker. Why? Why, oh, why will I, a Ravens fan, defend the bitter rival that they've become in the Cleveland Browns as of late? Why will I defend not the Browns, but Baker? Why am I, of all people, why? Why don't the Browns deserve Deshaun Watson? Why is it that I'm going to defend Baker right here? Right, on record for everybody to see and replay over and over again? It's because of this, right? Now, albeit I'll put it out here like this. The Browns ran into a gold mine by getting Deshaun Watson, right? We all know Deshaun Watson is an upgrade from Baker Mayfield. He's more proven. He's been there. He's done that, right? We got that. But and maybe it's just the sentimental, and maybe it's a little bit of my infatuation with Baker Mayfield because he has a little chip on his shoulder too. He's always been overlooked, right? He's always been the short guy of the group. He doesn't belong. Maybe that's my thing. Maybe that's my thing is I'm like, I just want this guy to succeed because he's a little cocky because he's always overlooked. And when you're always overlooked, you're gonna be a little cocky, right? My issue with the Browns fans, my reasoning behind the fact that I feel like Browns fans don't deserve Deshaun Watson is because of how they treated Baker Mayfield. How quickly we forget that a year ago, a little over a year ago now, because it was the divisional round, if I'm not mistaken. So a little over a year ago, Browns fans were loving Baker Mayfield. They were loving Baker Mayfield. He had taken the Browns to the playoffs for the first time in 20 years, right? And then he won their first playoff game in 20 years. And they ended up being one game away from the AFC Championship game after some shenanigans, we may say, with the referees, right, against the Chiefs. Browns fans were loving him. Now, he did get a little bit of some flack in the offseason, but Browns fans were feeling good. What they expected in 2019 that Lamar Jackson showed them, that's what they got from Baker Mayfield, especially that back half of the season. That back half of the season, Baker was cooking. He had the highest completion percentage, I think, and he was cooking. He was cooking with grease. And then for them to turn on him this season, a season that has been plagued with injuries by really, you can say a lot of the NFL, but the Browns had it pretty bad too. Baker had a non-throwing shoulder injury, and that affects, that was affecting the way he was throwing the football, the way he could twist and he could turn and make his throws. My thing is, I'm frustrated at Browns fans right now, right? I'm seething at Browns fans right now because this is the guy who literally ended your playoff drought, right? And I don't even know if it's comparable because Joe Burrow just went to a Super Bowl. But especially if we're in a league of what have you done for me lately, this is like Bengals fans next year if the Bengals don't make the playoffs, being like, you know what, we're done with Joe Burrow. We're done with Joe Burrow. But I don't even know if that's a fair comparison because sometimes you got to look at the numbers, right? Like sometimes you got to look at the numbers just to truly understand what we're seeing, right? You got to look at the numbers to understand, whoa, is Baker good? Is Baker bad? Is Baker okay? Like what is it, right? Is he baking cookies, right? Like what is he baking? What is he the baker of, right? My thing is Baker literally came out here and ended a playoff drought for Browns fans. He deserves at least a little bit of respect. The crazy part about the disrespect that I feel like Baker has gotten, and I have been on the opposite end of this spectrum for a while too, right? In terms of I haven't been overly criticized Baker, but I still don't think Baker gets as much criticism as Lamar, but nobody does. But I will say that Baker has been unfairly criticized. This is the same dude that in his rookie year played a little over half of the season, almost took the Browns to the playoffs and gave them life they hadn't seen in 20 years, right? This is the same guy who the next year had kind of a dud year, had all the talent in the world and had kind of a dud year. I'll admit that. But then the year after that took them to the playoffs, right? Beat the division leading bitter rival, the same team that said, oh, these are the same old Browns, right? They same old Browns, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers. Baker was a huge part of that, and then came back the next year and still played injured, right? And then for Browns fans to completely change their tone on what Baker Mayfield is crazy to me. Now, for those, I know Colin Cowherd has been, firm on I don't like Baker. He's a backwards hat guy, whatever. I get that, right? I get that. But like the fans who were with Baker last year to turn away from Baker this year, not just because you got Deshaun Watson, but even before that, because he played hurt and literally gave the Browns everything he could, right? And I guess because people were kind of feeling like, okay, OBJ, right, went and put up numbers with the Rams, so Baker was the problem. I don't, and I think it says it right here, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Right. Willie Lutz has said the Browns organization trying to blame all of their culture problems on Baker Mayfield is a sad joke, right? Why is that a sad joke? Because the Browns have had culture problems for 20 years. The Browns have had culture problems for 20 years, and then the fan base, who you would think was spoiled at this point, the fan base comes out here and says, we don't like the guy who broke our playoff drought, right? We don't like the guy who not only took us to the playoffs, but then won the game and was literally a penalty away, it felt like, right? A bad call in the first half and then a penalty in the second half away, like a Chad Henne. That's crazy to even say. A Chad Henne first down away from beating the Chiefs and going to the AFC Championship game. This is the same guy. Now, I will say this, and I completely understand it, right? When you look at the numbers for Baker Mayfield, he is not numbers wise in the upper echelon of quarterbacks, right? But numbers in the NFL mean absolutely nothing, right? When's the last time the league MVP won the Super Bowl? I think it was Aaron Rodgers in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And I might be wrong about that one too. It's been a while since the league MVP has won the Super Bowl. So the guy who supposedly put up the best numbers is the best player in the league. It's been a while since that guy has won the Super Bowl, right? Also, you got to remember the Browns are probably top 5 in rushing year after year because they got Nick Chubb, and then you add in Kareem Hunt over the past couple years too, and they just got even better running the football. They are a run, pass type of a team. Run, pass, play action, heavy play action type of a team, right? They are that type of a team. And I don't even know if they really have a deep threat to stretch the field enough for Baker to even throw down the field if he wanted to. So for me, and that's before OBJ, right? That was with Jarvis, right? Hollywood Higgins, maybe, right? Will they consistently throw those routes? I don't really know. Don't watch the Browns like that. But still, for me, right, a guy who, right, his best season statistically from a yards perspective, 3,800 yards, so almost 4,000 yards. It's a decent season, right? But I think people got to remember you can't lead the league in passing and lead the league in rushing, right? Like the only reason that the Ravens at one point in the season last year was top 5 in rushing and top 5 in passing was because Lamar Jackson was at the head of all of that, right? So he's touching the ball every time, so his numbers, double in a way. For a team who is a traditional run first offense, they get under center and hand the ball off to Nick Chubb. They get under center and hand the ball off to Kareem Hunt. You can't expect Baker to put up ridiculous numbers, right? Because he's just not. Same thing. Taking it back to the Ravens last year, Lamar Jackson's numbers from a passing perspective were down, especially in the touchdown department, because every running back on the street, I think I took one too, was taking the ball to the end zone from Lamar Jackson on a handoff, right? So if you're a top running team, it's hard to also be a top passing team. Like when I look at the stats from last year, the top rushing teams in the NFL, I don't remember the quarterbacks blowing us away when it came to numbers, right? Nobody was talking about, oh, these are the elite passers and all this. You got Philadelphia, who, with Jalen Hurts is good, right? But I don't remember anybody saying that he was throwing the ball all around the field. Indy with Carson Wentz, right? You can't, like, there's no way, there's no scientific way, unless you're putting up 40 points a game, and nobody's really doing that. Unless you're putting up 40 points a game, you're not going to lead the league in rushing or even be top 5. Even when I look at this, you probably won't even be top 10 and be good, right? And be good in passing. You can't be good in both, right? You can be good in both, but you can't excel in both. There's no way there's going to be that balance, right? That's my issue, right? You got Philly, Indy, right? We all know about Jonathan Taylor and Carson Wentz, the greatest scapegoat there ever was. Of course, Baltimore, right? A lot of that's Lamar Jackson and his running ability too, but they're a run first team. That's why when Lamar Jackson leads the league in touchdown passes, you're a little surprised because they're a run first team. Cleveland, of course, they're number 4, right? So they're a top 5 rushing offense in the league. You can't be a top 5 rushing offense in the league and then come out here and throw the ball for 5,000 yards too, because I certainly don't see in the top 10 Kansas City, right? Let me pull this up real quick so y'all can see what I'm saying, because I don't want y'all to think I'm lying to you. I don't want y'all to think like, okay, he playing games, right? Like he not being for real. Like, but look at this for real though, right? Philly, nobody's saying Jalen Hurts is throwing the ball all around the field. Indy, right? Indy with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz the biggest scapegoat, so obviously he didn't have a great season last year, even though his ratio was pretty good, right? He was just a scapegoat for Indy to lose to Jacksonville for the 8th straight time at home or something, right? That's all that was. Okay, Baltimore, of course, right? And some of that was, quarterback injuries too. Lamar didn't play for the last 6-7 games of the year. Cleveland, right? You're a top rushing offense. You can't really be a top passing offense. It's just not, that's just not how it works. It just doesn't work that way, right? Let's look back at Tennessee, right? Nobody says Ryan Tannehill's throwing the ball all around the field, right? And Julio Jones is a scapegoat for that, right? Okay. And then Buffalo, San Francisco, New England, Seattle, right? And then Dallas. The only 2 teams you could really maybe make a case for is Dallas and Buffalo. They're the only 2 teams, and they're not in the top 5 of rushing. They're in the top 10, right? And we talking yards per game, right? We talking yards per game in that regard. So for me, when I look at that list, and then when you go down, I feel like you got to be closer to the middle of the pack to be a top passing offense in the league, right? You got to be close to the middle of the pack because, you can't take yards and touchdowns away from your quarterback by trying to run the football and then expect your quarterback to put up 5,000 yards a season. And then again, those 5,000 yard guys aren't the guys who are winning Super Bowls, right? Those 5,000 yard guys aren't the guys who are winning Super Bowls, right? Brady had an MVP type season this year, didn't win a Super Bowl this season. Aaron Rodgers was the MVP, didn't win a Super Bowl this year. Mahomes, still had a pretty good year after they figured out everything. Didn't win the Super Bowl, right? Now I'll give you, Matt Stafford, of course, right? He puts up good numbers. I'll give you that, right? At the end of the day, but numbers don't always equate to championships, right? That's why you ain't gonna never say a bad thing about Joe Flacco, because at the end of the day, right, he may didn't put up the best numbers, but he was in a run first offense, right? Number one, so he's not supposed to put up the best numbers. Trust and believe. You'll hear that. You'll hear that until I stop doing this podcast and the camera goes dead. He didn't have to put up 5,000 yards, because how was he going to with Ray Rice, rushing for 1,000, 1,500? How you explain that to me? How you gonna do that? So my issue with the Browns fans, right? My issue with the Browns fans is they turned on Baker Mayfield way before they should have. And that's kind of an issue I have with a lot of fan bases, a lot of media personalities, right? We give up on quarterbacks too soon, right? Indy invested so much in Carson Wentz to get rid of Carson Wentz in the offseason, right? They invested so much in Carson Wentz just to drop Carson Wentz like he was hot, right? Just to hit the little Snoop Dogg on him, right? They invested so much in Carson Wentz just for that to happen, right? The Panthers with Sam Darnold, right? They decided they were going to give Sam Darnold another chance. He started out good, had some rough patches throughout the season. Cam came in, all that, right? They invested in him. My thing is, if you're going to invest in somebody, like, I don't think quarterbacks should be, and I know the NFL is not for long, right? It's that type of league, right? But I don't think quarterbacks should be held to a standard that if they can't make it within 2 to 3 years, it's time to bounce them out of there. Because for me, right, there is a level of maturity. Not everybody is Mahomes, who gets drafted into an absolutely amazing situation. I sit behind Alex Smith, the ultimate pro, for a year, right? I get all the talent in the world, Tyreek Hill, right? I get the Tyreek Hills of the world, right? I get the Travis Kelce's of the world. They nabbed me Kareem Hunt in the draft. They nabbed me Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the draft, right? They even bring in some other guys, Josh Gordon, not to say it worked, some of them didn't work out, but, they grabbed me Josh Gordon. Like, not everybody's getting these opportunities. And I got a pretty darn good offensive coordinator in Eric Bieniemy, who ain't done nothing for me but taking me to, back-to-back Super Bowls, 4 straight AFC championship games. Not everybody's going to get, going to be in that situation, right? So I think for me, my issue with Browns fans, they turn too quick, right? They did the knee-jerk reaction like everybody else, right? They did the thing that every other fan does when they don't make the playoffs in their first year, right? They did what everybody else does when you start to struggle. The crazy part is, like, Seattle has been pretty consistent, but they've had some seasons where they made the playoffs and they never gave up on Russ. Russ might have gave up on them, but they never gave up on Russ, right? They never gave up on Russ. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, not everybody's gonna have the longevity that Brady had, considering his division didn't do anything to improve for the entire 15-year, 20-year span that he was in New England, right? So what can you do, right? New Orleans, even with Jameis, like New Orleans now, albeit I know Jameis was still a free agent this season, but New Orleans kind of decided they wanted to go a different route with Jameis. And why? My thing is, why, we've seen what Jameis can do in a way, right? But, like, we just know that Jameis is kind of just a careless football player. It's not that Jameis is necessarily bad. It's not that Jameis can't put it in the end zone, right? We watched him throw 30 touchdowns, but we also watched him throw 30 picks, right? My appeal to these coaching staffs, right, that may not ever hear this is, are we coaching the guys even at the pro level, right? how much time are you putting in, Giants organization, with Daniel Jones to bring out these pool noodles or something and try to work on his ability to hang on to the football with these fumbles? Because everything else I think he does pretty well. It's just the fumbles, right? But instead of developing a guy, we'll develop certain people, but instead of developing a guy, we'll get rid of him and try to look on something else, right? I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like, there's this whole thing, and I'm going to do a video on it eventually. There's this whole thing about loyalty in the NBA and how people are seen differently because based off of how loyal they are to the team that drafted them, right? But how loyal is the team that drafted you to you, right? How loyal are the Cleveland Cavaliers to, right, whoever, right? My point, right? So, last thing last. It's not a real thing. Last thing last. Look, the Browns, specifically their fans, don't deserve Deshaun Watson because all Baker did was come in and do his job. And we're upset that the Browns have a top 5 rushing offense because that's how they're tailored to be. So that's why Baker can't spread it around to every person on the team, right? You got Baker passing weapons for running offense. That's my issue. You got Baker passing weapons for running offense and then expected Baker to throw the ball more. But why wouldn't I give it to Nick Chubb, right? Why is Carson Wentz supposed to complete every single pass he makes when they're not giving him the opportunities to complete those passes, right? I feel like Carson Wentz is going to do good in Washington. Carson Wentz is going to be a good commander. I'm surprised they didn't stick with Taylor Heineke, but I think they feel like Taylor Heineke doesn't have that it factor that they were looking for, I guess. For me, and plus they can always fall back on it if Carson Wentz, goes under, right? But the Carson Wentz thing, there's something about Carson Wentz. If he could not be as careless as he is sometimes, because Carson Wentz is such a tryhard. Him and Baker, like, they mirror each other a little bit to me. Because Baker is a tryhard, right? Baker is going to give you everything it takes, and if it means throwing a pick, dang on it, he's going to throw that pick. Carson Wentz is the same way, right? He's going to give you everything he can. But once you give up on him, he's done with you, right? And I feel like the Colts already tried to put a lot of pressure on Carson Wentz. Colts fans, right? The media, right? Probably the organization, because he lost the game against the Jaguars, because he plays defense on a team that supposedly has a good defense. Let's see what they do with Matt Ryan. I got more Raven stuff coming up. I promise you I do. I got more Raven stuff coming up. I want to start something, but I don't want to give it away, right? So I want to start something, and I'm probably going to do it at the beginning of the video. So here I go doing something at the end of the video that I'll probably do at the beginning. I want to start something, but I don't want to give it away. So first, what I want you to do, right? I want you to put your favorite. Let's go with cereals. I like cereals. Maybe that'll be the first one. Right? The first one of these highly debatable topics that aren't really debatable, right? Fun way to start the video. I'm going to do it, probably starting with the next actual Ravens video that I do. Favorite cereal, and if it ain't Frosted Flakes, we fighting, right? If it's Fruity Pebbles, like just leave, just go, right? If it's Cocoa Puffs, do they even make Cocoa Puffs anymore, right? Like, be sure, put that down below. Give your thoughts on Carson Wentz, how that got in there, I don't know. Also, give your thoughts on, Baker. What you think? Was he done wrong? Was he done right? what is it, right? What is it? If you were triggered by this video as a Browns fan, please respond. But as always, hope you guys enjoyed Flock Nation Speaks. I told you I was going to do some stuff outside the norm. I didn't say I was going to do this, but maybe more coming, especially if there's big enough news. Considering with Tyreek Hill getting traded too, makes the Dolphins makes the Dolphins that much more talented. But will they put it together? Because they're the Dolphins, right? We'll see. But as always, hope you guys enjoyed. If you're watching, be sure to listen. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Anchor as well. If you are listening, you can go watch on YouTube. And until next time, we'll see you guys on that